the rules discussed earlier. I'll go ahead and do the signing. Yes, sir.
Okay. Joseph Ganji, 1998 Yarnell Road, one of the properties that adjoins the Pacone 0 Yarnell Road property. I just should explain that the other neighbors, the other neighbor, Josephine Class, she had surgery today, and my wife, who was here with the laptop, she had surgery today, and they both had to leave early because they're still on their recovery meds and need sleep, etc. So I want to make a couple comments about what the engineer and the lawyer said. First of all, I'm an electrical engineer, I'm not a civil engineer, but you don't have to know much about engineering. All you gotta know is that water runs downhill. That's the main thing here. And it runs downhill even if it's underground and the terrain is downhill. They would have us believe that the only water coming out for that property is from the front down towards Yarnell Road, but it's not. I get a lot of water off the back of that property. And my neighbor who was here, I think he left, Gerhart, he gets a lot of water that's coming off the same area of the back of that property. And what they're neglecting to tell you or admit is that there's a very large area immediately adjacent and behind Paul's property and adjacent to my property that they're gonna cut down about 40 big trees to put a septic mound in there. And there's gonna be more water coming out of there. That's something they have neglected in all of this. The other thing that I wanna make a point of is that this is the transcript from the zoning hearing board meeting we had back in November, December, whenever it was. There's not one mention in here of any kind of drainage structures in the driveway, and I don't believe it was on the plan that was presented either. We didn't get a copy of the plan because it was big and they didn't have copies of it, something like that. It was approved for a driveway. There's many places in this transcript, which I purchased from the stenographer. There's many places in here where they just talk about it being approved as a driveway. And all of the reasons that the engineer gave for why they need this exception and that waiver, et cetera, it all just speaks to why the township doesn't need and doesn't want flag lots. There's not enough room of access to the roadways and the public drainage ways to accommodate these things. And I go back to the very beginning of this whole thing, where when the Sitkos presented this to the township, they neglected to include that there is an unbuildable half-acre lot immediately adjacent to the 50-foot right-of-way, which if they would have included it, they bought it at the same time, it's on the same deed from the David Heisers with the same money. If they would have included that half-acre lot on that 50-foot, which is immediately next to it, there would be no flag lot.
15 seconds.
It's I'm gonna get timed out on this now, right? So, if there's gonna be a meeting, you should have Mr. Hewitt from the zoning hearing board, because he did make a comment. We objected to the stormwater management. He made a comment at the very end, which was included in the provisions for granting.
All right, your time's up.
Okay, here we go. 3 minutes, and it's gonna affect the township for 30 years.
You have 3 minutes.
You got your 3 minutes, and you have a meeting on the 5th. The whole meeting on the 5th.
Next commenter. Next commenter. Next commenter. Are you? You wanting to make a comment?
I'm sorry?
Are you wanting to make a comment?
Yes, sir.
Oh, please have a seat.
I'd like to say good evening, everybody. My name is Tyrone Robinson, 1488 Heather Place. I'm going to make my announcement this evening. I'm very proud to say I'm running for commissioner here in Upper Pottsgrove, PA. In June, my wife and I would have resided here in Upper Pottsgrove for the past 35 years. We're very fortunate to be able to say that we have raised 6 children here, and I'm very blessed to say that we now have 15 grandchildren. I'm a big open space advocate. Also, I'm concerned about how our tax dollars are being spent here in the township. Thank you.
Next caller. Yes, sir.
Jim Kapinski, 1958 Yarnell Road. I want to start by saying I am not against the Gilbertsville Road property. I'm not against the smaller property. However, misinformation has been used, that term's been used for the last couple of years. A recent article in the Upper Pottsgrove Journal has a major mistake. It says the Gilbertsville property was purchased with general fund dollars. Wrong. It was purchased with open space funds. Once you purchase a property with open space taxpayers' money, the property falls under the PA Open Space Land Act. You just can't wave a wand and use it as you please. The township even had an advertised public hearing, and Don, Hank, and Trace voted to use the open space tax money to buy Gilbertsville property. This was after Kathy and me both advised them to pay it out of the general fund so it could be used for the proposed municipal complex. During the commissioner's comments tonight, I would appreciate it if Don, Hank, and Trace would tell us why they voted to use open space funds instead of money from the general funds. Was it because Kathy and Dave wanted to use the general funds? I have to ask Eric, what was the purpose of an advertised public hearing where Don, Hank, and Trace voted to use open funds to buy the Gilbertsville property? Then they voted at a Board of Commissioners meeting without a public hearing to transfer money from the general fund to the open space fund, thinking they can now use Gilbertsville Road for the proposed municipal complex. The Upper Pottsgrove Journal also states that the township lost the smaller farm lawsuit with the judge citing commingling of funds. It stated the commingling of funds occurred well before any of the current members were on the board. I have a real estate broker's license. I have a business account. I have an escrow account. If I remove money from my escrow account into my business account, I get accused of commingling funds. I'm most likely to lose my license and I could actually go to jail. The Open Space Fund has money from the earned income tax, which was the result of the taxpayers' voted referendum. The general fund has money from many sources. Question, does transferring money from the general fund to the Open Space Fund result in commingling of funds as argued in the smaller lawsuit? You didn't listen to me in 2022 before the smaller lawsuit was filed. I told you to go, just like North Country did, get a court order before you spend taxpayer money. Please listen to me now. If you want to use the Gilbertsville Road
15
property,
seconds.
there's a way to do it. But you have to read the Open Space Land Act to see what you have to do. And one of them is put it on a ballot and have the people vote to use open space for a public project. And when did we change the name of the smaller farm to the Evans Road project? I always thought it was the smaller farm. Thank
Hey,
you.
Jim, how come you didn't file your petition to run for commissioner?
Well, I really want to thank you for thinking of me and respecting me for all the
The question is,
contributions.
why didn't you file it?
There's personal reasons.
And then if-
Why didn't you file it? There's a question. Why didn't you file it?
I'm asking you a question. The next one is, if the township didn't hold public hearings to purchase a property, say before 2018, is that property illegal?
I don't know. All I know is we had a public advertised public hearing.
You know about
to
public
vote
hearing. You've
on-
been to several of those. You've been going to meetings before I have.
I've been going there for a
Legally, you just
long
re-
time.
You just reviewed the law. If there was not a public hearing to buy property, open space property, open space taxes, is that invalid?
I don't know. Ask Eric.
I'm asking you, you have all the answers, you said so.
You don't answer my questions. Why should I answer your
So
questions?
you don't-
Why aren't you running?
The
Why
other
aren't you
question-
running?
Tell me again, on your road by you, what happened with that whited out, who whited out that road? You used to say that every time. Okay, anybody else comment? Okay, commissioner comments. You guys can continue with your